used to restart my routine every Monday. New plan, new week, new me. Sounds familiar? But here's what. The obsession with finding that perfect routine could actually be the reason why we're stuck. I'm Dr. AriA, and if it's your first time here, I create content geared towards ambitious, overachieving women at risk of burnout. I'm all about soft routines, cozy spaces, and everything that leads to an intentional life. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome. This is the art of soft structure. I will be doing a series where I am breaking down work-life balance myths and why we believe them so much. What is even the perfect routine? And why do we believe that there is such a thing? We have been taught the productivity lie. We have been in this era where productivity seems to be the thing that we're chasing. And this might be the very thing that is causing us issues. The 75 hard, the 5 a.m. club, the 12-week plan. And we are chasing something that actually doesn't exist. That perfect routine. I have been doing a lot of reading on work-life balance. What is work-life balance? What is the reason why, even though we have come up with this work-life balance concept, why we are still struggling and experiencing burnout? I have been in that place, and I was searching for something that would help me to get my life more organized, productive, but yet still soft. Structured, but still soft. And in my research, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, reading books, and even reading peer-reviewed articles. And I'm going to read something here from, this is an article written by Dr. Christina Maslow. She's a UC Berkeley professor, and she coined the modern burnout framework. That's her framework. She found that environments demanding constant high performance and rewarding overwork creates the exact conditions that cause burnout. Drop the mic. Exactly what I've been saying. We are chasing something that's actually not good for us. An example of this would be, it's a new year, you're motivated, you want to start going back to the gym, you want to do all these grandiose things. And that's beautiful, because I love doing these things at the beginning of the year. We have our vision board. We're going to get up at 5 a.m. We're going to do 10 things. We have a 10-step routine that we need to get done before we start our actual day. But here's the problem. We have toddlers. Our actual life, it's not practical for us to get up at 5 a.m. and get all of this stuff done before we get to what's really important for our family. And that's a problem. So what happens here is that we get frustrated and we quit because we cannot attain the standard of the vision or the routine that we are chasing to use in our life. It doesn't fit. A good example would be another person who she is realistic, and she says to herself, if I get nothing done for the day, here are 3 anchors that will hold my day together and I will feel like I'm accomplished. An example of this could be the coffee in the morning, hydrating, drinking your coffee. You stop and have a matcha, probably midday. And then in the afternoon, when you take another break, you probably say, let me tidy up a small section of my home for 10 minutes, refresh a small space. If I can get these 3 or 4 things done for that day, I would have had a good day. I would have feel accomplished. So no matter how hard the day gets, how many deadlines we have due that particular day, we still feel encouraged because those 3 or 4 anchors are our non-negotiables, and once we get those done, we have had a successful day. See the difference there? Do not set your standards so high and impractical that at the end of the day you feel so distressed, you feel so frustrated that you throw the routine out the window. How about having a routine that's more realistic, that you can actually follow, it fits into your real life, and then you have the hope of it being sustainable. Does having a structured routine really help? Well, there's nothing wrong with structure. What's wrong is when it's too rigid. Rigidity is the problem, structure isn't. A Harvard Business School study conducted in partnership with Google found that after the habit formation period ended, People who followed a flexible routine were more than twice as likely to maintain their habits long term compared to those who followed a rigid one. So here's another research paper written to support the fact that a perfect routine, a structured routine, actually is overrated. A disadvantage of actually having a rigid routine is when you have a routine that you're trying to follow and it is so strict and so it boxes you in so much that you end up quitting before you try doing this routine or working with this routine for more than a week. So you start out the week, you have a good Monday, Tuesday's a little shaky, on Wednesday you're like, you know what, let me start next week. Because you feel like such a failure, you just give up. So it's the all or nothing concept, and we've got to be careful of this. So that's an example that's not a good one. A good example would be, I missed going to the gym this morning, but I know that I have about 15-20 minutes break. I can probably walk around the block. So you get your movement in, even though you don't get to go all the way out to go to the gym, but you still get your exercise. Now you see what's happening there? There's a compromise, there's flexibility, there's room to change to your circumstance. That's a good routine, not a rigid one. The next question is, what happens to us psychologically when we have failed in our routine? This is where it gets dangerous because we start feeling like we have failed. We're disappointed in ourselves. We start feeling hopeless. And for high achieving women, for ambitious women, this is dangerous. You really don't want to be at that place where you don't believe in yourself anymore. It's almost like you don't trust yourself because you have failed yourself. Here's some research about this by Hill et al. This research found that self-oriented perfectionism, the kind where you're holding yourself to a higher standard, that is pretty much impossible. This directly predicts burnout symptoms across multiple areas of your life. That brings us to the point of what? Perfectionism. Perfectionism puts in your mind that you're being lazy when you're not doing something. And it basically makes you feel like a failure when you feel like you need to rest. So instead of knowing that you are tired and you need some grace and you need to rest, you're telling yourself that you're lazy. Psychologically, that is damaging. An example of this would be that woman who has this unrealistic routine for herself. She keeps failing at it over and over and over again. And you know what end up happening? She ends up not believing that she's to have a routine at all. I've heard people say, oh, I don't have routines. I don't use those things. They have given up on the strength of having a good routine. And that's a bad place to be. So failing your routine because you have set such an impossible standard and are suffering with perfectionism, you end up giving up entirely on the system of having a routine. That's not a good place to be. A good example of someone who is not allowing herself to be caught in the whole perfect routine trap is one that understands that her routine is not going to look the same way in the spring as it does in the fall. As a mom, I know that my routine in the summers are different from my routine in the times when my kids are at school. You have to be able to put a routine together that adapts to your life. So you might have one routine in one season, another in another season. It might be a routine that you know that today I go to the gym, a routine, a day that you rest. It could be a difference in routine because you had a change in your job structure. So once you understand the concept that you are to always be revising, stop, take a look at your routine right now. What is not working? What is working? And that's where my soft mirror comes in. I'm going to leave a link in the bio where you can assess where you are at with your routine right now and gently look into what's working, what's not working, adjusting what needs to be adjusted, throw out what needs to be thrown out, and reform your routine. And it might happen once a month. It might happen every 3 months. It depends on your life. But the point is, it needs to be adaptable, it needs to be forgiving, and it needs to be practical. And then the last question that we're going to handle, the last question we're going to look at is, what does a soft structure routine looks like instead? Why is soft structure an option for better? Why do I think that I can offer a better suggestion through my art of soft structure? In my concept of soft structure, I have recognized that there needs to be a balance of softness to your structure. So structure is good. You need to have something set up in your days. You need anchors in your days. There are particular non-negotiables that you need to stand by and use those as your marker for whether a day is a good one or a bad one. I believe that there are aspects to your whole routine and life that needs to be considered. Not necessarily in balance, but they need to be considered as you go along creating your routines and going along your day. And this is what I call the R.E.S.T framework. R.E.S.S.T. R for relationships, E for your energy, S for your space, your environment. The other S is for self, and the T is for time. Whenever you are creating a routine, all these 5 factors should be considered in some way. You might not be able to get every part of the framework addressed every single day, but at least you know that it needs to be addressed. There needs to be flexibility. That's what soft structure is about. Intention, flexibility, forgiveness and grace in your routine. And finally, it has to match your real circumstances, your real situation, your real life. Not some influencer's life that you've seen on the internet, but your real life. Not necessarily a 5 a.m. routine. It could be a 5 a.m. routine, but that's not for everyone. It could be a 75 hard, but the problem with those concepts is that they are finite. They're for a particular period of hype, and then it all falls back down to your reality. Soft structure is about being fit for you. Stop asking, did I follow my routine today? And start asking questions like, did I protect what matters today? Did I set boundaries for myself today? It might be that you need to have a little corner set up. This is my little corner that I call my cozy corner set up. When I come into this space, I get back to myself. I have a space for me where I can think about what my goals are, what my aim is. I light a candle, I might turn my diffuser on. But whatever it is that you need to do, that space where you journal, where you think, where you pray, where you meditate, that space represents your refresh every single day. Those are things that help. And if you like this kind of content, please do not leave this video without subscribing to my channel. Why are you even all the way to this point and not subscribed? Please subscribe to my channel. And if you're not following me on Instagram, please follow me at Dr._AriA Wilson. I will leave a link in the description. Download your soft mirror today. Take that first step. Take that assessment, and it will help you to understand what's going on with your routine, so you can take the step forward and you can jump right into my 30-day reset. Let me know how you like this video in the comments. Do you think there is a perfect routine? Let's have a conversation. Stay positive, stay intentional, and always remember, my cozy crew, love yourselves. Peace out.